back to Studio 5. Hey, it's natural for moms and dads to want to jump in and fix a situation or a concern when kids are faced with a problem, but rushing to rescue can actually do more harm than good, according to our next guest.
Therapist Julie Hanks has 5 questions to ask yourself before you rush in to rescue your child from those natural consequences. Why, as parents, do we find it so hard to sit back and let natural things take place, you know?
We don't want our children to be in pain. We don't want our children to be in pain. That's why. And it causes us pain when they're in pain sometimes.
So there's a little bit of a selfish underride there. I mean, it hurts us too.
It does.
When our children are suffering.
It does. And we want our children to be happy. And so we want them to be successful, right? There's a lot of our ego is entwined with their happiness sometimes. So it makes it really difficult to separate and let them fail sometimes because it causes us pain to see them in pain.
You know, most parents, I think, they mean well. They want what's best for the child, but they sometimes get confused about what their role as a parent is. How would you define a parent's role?
Yeah. Well, I think a parent's role is to prepare their child to be a healthy, happy, productive adult, and to have self-awareness and empathy for others. I mean, that's kind of how I conceptualize it. Here's what it's not. It's not keeping your child happy all the time, preventing failure, having them like you all the time. And I have to say that to myself. It's okay if they don't like me. It's okay if they don't like me right now. Because that's not my job, is to make them like me.
I think just that definition shifts perspective for a lot of parents. Just hearing you say that, it's almost a little freeing to hear the permission that, you know what, I have a defined role, and sometimes I might jump in and rescue outside of that role when it's not needed and not necessary.
And it's actually not helpful, and it can be hurtful sometimes over the long run. And we, as parents, we want to do what's in our child's, you know, what's good for them, but it's not always clear what that is.
I can see myself, I'm just saying, not wanting to predict into the future, I can see myself being horrible at this as a parent, like wanting so badly to jump in and save. So you have 5 questions parents can ask themselves before they jump in. First, is my child in immediate danger?
Right. And there are situations where it's just, you do step in. Natural consequences, doesn't matter. If your toddler's running out into the street, your teen has been drinking and wants to drive, you know, things like that, where it's your job to step in and protect them. Your tween is chatting with a stranger online and they're sexually coming on to, you know, there's times where they're in danger. You cut it off, you protect them, right? But other than that,
let it ride, you're saying?
Oh, more often than not. Not always, right? Every child's different, but more often than not, we're going to do that.
Okay, if they're not in danger, back off a little bit. Beware of that. Okay, what's the next question we need to ask ourselves?
All right, whose problem is this? And this is so important because I hear moms in particular saying, oh, we have a lot of homework tonight. It's like, I tell my son, I passed the 3rd grade. This is your homework, right? Don't own your kids' responsibilities or problems, or we have a messy room, don't we? No, your child has a messy room. And if look at your language, how do you talk about your child's problems or concerns? Do you own it?
I think that's so interesting because even in verbiage, you're sending a message that you might not realize you're sending. I can see parents wanting to soften, you know, that command, we have a messy room, and you say just that verbal.
Notice who owns the problem. Yeah. Whose problem is this? And I notice in myself, if I'm more upset than my child is about a poor grade, I'm like, oh, wow, that's a sign that I'm owning the problem. And when parents do that, the child doesn't have to own it. They're like, oh, mom will take care of it, right? And we do, unfortunately.
They tend to think it's not their business. It's somebody else's business.
Right. So Byron Katie, who's an amazing author and wise woman, says there are 3 kinds of business in life. Your business, other people's business, and God's business. And we create pain for ourselves when we get into other people's business and God's business. And other people's business is also your kids' business, right? If you meddle in all of their relationships and their, you know, fights or you're getting in their business. Your job is to coach them, but not take it on.
Coach from a distance. Question number 3, we're asking ourselves, what is the loving thing to do?
Okay, this is so tricky, you guys, because parents love their children, right? They're a part of us. But the loving thing is not the thing that causes the least amount of conflict, that is the easiest path, or that keeps your child happy. How I define the loving thing, it's what is in your child's best interest in the long term. What's in my child's best interest? And that's not always very clear. I have an extended family member who had a tragic situation. A child died from substance abuse, and the parents, looking back, said, I wish we hadn't bailed her out of jail. We should have left her there for a while. I wish we hadn't taken care of her kids so much. They should have been taken away. So looking back, they were able to see, ooh, that wasn't loving, even though it came from a loving place in our heart.
You know, the whole loving thing, I think, is what leads us into the problems to start with. Because we want to take care and we want to jump in and we love them, we want to keep them safe. And so we jump in without thinking.
Right.
But if you ask yourself what's the loving thing to do, it is not always to jump in immediately.
It's not the nice thing, and it's not always the nice thing. Your job is
That's a hard question, though, you know?
No,
because sometimes, especially, I mean, I'm thinking of that situation with the drug use. Essentially, you're saying let them hit rock bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes that is the most loving thing to do. And I mean, it breaks parents' hearts, right? But had they done that, their daughter may still be with us.
So they learn those lessons.
Hard things, and little things over time add up to teach your child different things.
Next question for us. This is what your child's going to learn from all this, right?
Yeah, what will my child learn if I rescue him or her? And parents sometimes unknowingly teach their child not to trust themselves. Oh, you need me to jump in. I will fix it. I will talk to your teacher and, you know, get your attendance, have them erase the absences, or I will, right? You're teaching your child that you need me. You don't have good judgment. You need me, right? That's not a message you want to teach for healthy adulthood. We have this going on in my house right now, and I asked my 17-year-old if I could share this experience. But she drove we have 3 cars, and she has access to the 3rd car. And she drove it without checking the oil for several weeks after my husband said, check the oil every week. It's an old car. The car is totaled now. It's beyond repair. She is now paying us back for that car. So had I rescued her and said, oh, that's okay, it's an old car, then she would just think, oh, well, I don't have to take care of my stuff, and my parents or someone else will bail me out. And she's like, why are you guys into this consequences thing? I'm like, this is not our rule. This is how the world works.
This is life. This is what it's really
about. You make a choice, there are consequences.
I heard my friend was talking the other day, actually, and her kindergartner was required to miss recess because she didn't turn in her ABC worksheet. And I thought, that seems so harsh at 5 years old to issue that kind of a consequence. But are you saying the pattern will pay off down the road?
Right. So that child will probably not forget their homework again. Because Einstein says the only true source of knowledge is experience. When we experience the pain or the consequences of our choices, we learn, right? And so the stakes get higher as kids grow up. So that staying in at recess in high school turns into lower GPA and less scholarship options, or you forget to turn in your report for your job and you get fired. So that staying in at recess, having that pain will help avoid the pain in the future, because they get, oh, I'm responsible for doing what I say I'm going to do.
And it all comes down to the 5th question, which is how you're really going to prepare your child for the future. Yeah. Julie's got all sorts of great information on our website, answers to all of these questions. And we also want to mention, this is an exciting thing for people who want some of these answers and other help. Yeah. You actually are offering free therapy for folks in Utah County, right?
We're opening a Provo clinic of Wasatch Family Therapy, and next week therapy is free. I'll be down there on Tuesday. I have a couple of openings left. We have therapists who specialize in all different kinds of family relationship problems. So
exciting. Congratulations on the opening.
Thank you.
That's a big deal.
Thank you.
We'll post details about that free therapy next week in the Utah County area on our website. Thanks, Julie, for stopping in. Coming up next, Dan